masterclass satirical horror in Scream to a thinly veiled parody spoof masquerading as a satire, I bring you The Woman in the House Across the Street from the Girl in the Window. Yup. So obviously this is supposed to be a dark comedy satire about all those like lady thrillers based on books, most of which generally seem to give really shitty adaptations, but like really it's just The Woman in the Window, which I also have a video on if you want to find out about like the origin story behind this one. And those aren't like thrillers for ladies specifically. Like, yes, they do seem to be the target demographic, especially for the books, but I just mean thrillers that focus on middle-aged women that often present as unreliable narrators and get caught up in some kind of brutal mystery. Maybe middle-aged is also a little bit mean. They're middle-aged if you think they're gonna die at like 75. Basically the Twilight of the adult fiction world. Not that kind of adult fiction. I mean like fiction novels for adults. Gillian Flynn popped off with her stories. You probably know her from Gone Girl. There's also Sharp Objects and Dark Places. A lot of stuff that she's very well known for. And because all those started doing so well, a slew of thrillers with similar premises and tones popped up. Not as big as Twilight, but just that general idea of like, oh, this type of book is selling? Let's just flood the market. A literary trend, if you will. And even when a lot of those books are well received and well enjoyed, the adaptations often suffer. Even when it doesn't seem like there should be any excuse for that because you've gotten good people working on the project and a series of Academy Award winning or worthy actors. But it's those adaptations that this show is going at, but it really just feels more like a drawn out version of The Woman in the Window, which I didn't need. The Woman in the Window already felt like a parody of the thriller genre that was just trying so damn hard. But you know what's not trying so hard to be thrilling? Today's sponsor, Raycon. Shut up. That was a great segue. Do you know what I am? Lazy. Do you know what I'm trying not to be? Lazy. Do you know what helps me not be lazy and like actually do things around the house and run necessary errands? The ability to listen to audiobooks and music on the go. And Raycon makes that possible with quality, comfort, and style. They just sent me a fresh pair of everyday earbuds, and I didn't think these could get more comfortable, but apparently they whipped up some kind of optimized gel tip so they're more comfortable than ever and stay in place perfectly. With 8 hours of playtime, 32-hour battery life, a compact fit, and a variety of colors, Raycon are guaranteed to have the perfect pair for you, starting about half the price of other premium wireless earbuds. So if you want to please your ears today, is that what we're going with? Okay. If you want to please your ears today and find out why Raycon have so many 5-star reviews, head on over to buyraycon.com/Jedi or click the link in the description down below to save 15% off your Raycon purchase. But again, this show is definitely less dark comedy satire and falls more in the realm of parody spoof, regardless of what they think they made, because they definitely think they made a satire, but like some people are struggling to realize this wasn't supposed to be serious, which I guess in that vein, it does kind of fit more like a satire. Some people just don't get satire. Like a lot of those early Scream reviewers didn't really seem to understand what it was going for, but I really just think that this is a show that struggles with tone, and it really is not juggling it well enough to be a good example of a satire, but then it's playing it too straight at times to be the full-on parody spoof. Like, I personally thought it was pretty obvious what they were going for, even without looking at the title, but like, I can understand why some people, depending on what your expectation was, would have gone into it with different thoughts. I also tend to really hate spoof and struggle with parodies past a certain point. I don't even like the ones that are considered good, like Scary Movie. Like, we already have Scream. We don't need the thing parodying the satire. What? Go watch my Scream video, please. It was briefly age restricted, and I thought I was going to die because I thought it was going to die, and I worked so damn hard on it. So like, please check it out if you're worried for the new Scream being spoiled. There's timestamps in the bottom. I give my no spoiler thoughts early on, then I just talk about every other Scream movie, then go into the new Scream, so you know exactly when to click off. Anyways, Scream's a satirical commentary on the horror genre while still being a great slasher. Whereas this isn't a great example of a thriller. It's absolutely parodying the genre. Why is it so hard to say words? It's absolutely parodying the genre, but it's not doing anything to provide a better alternative while having fun with it. It also really struggles at being fun sometimes, and certain interactions just shake out like they are trying too hard to just play it it's whatever. And that's all fine. This honestly still could have worked, just definitely not in the format they gave us. This would have worked really well as like a fake trailer skit, like the SNL one about lesbian period pieces, which was entirely making fun of Ammonite and respecting the queen of LPP's Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Because we don't disrespect Celine, we respect that she is the queen. Any chance to talk about Portrait of a Lady on Fire? Oh, sorry guys, I just had to get twisty.
You got guts and a twisty mind.
But it probably still could have been built into a solid movie. There were some really funny aspects to this, some good ideas. Not necessarily for a satire, but there was a way to keep this funny and light. And because it's mostly making fun of one singular movie, there really wasn't a reason that this couldn't have been parodied in a nice, like, clean 90 to maybe 100 minutes. But no, Netflix, knowing that they could keep people clicking, decided to make this into an 8-part series. Thankfully, they're working in the, like, sub 30-minute range for runtime, so this can be knocked out in an evening at just over 200 minutes, but it's entirely too much time spent on this type of show. And again, somehow people thought it was supposed to be serious, which I just don't know how to help. Look at the title. Look at the tagline. When it rains, she pours. Guys, as in wine, she pours. The drinking lady, she pours wine. That was a really long way to get to a Scott Pilgrim quote that wasn't like it's a reference. It's a reference. Okay, back to okay.
And the cleaning lady, she cleans up. Dust. She dusts.
Main point being, there is a world where this really could have worked and been funny and maybe actually ventured into being something fun in the thriller world, but instead it just felt overly drawn out and stuff that could or should have made me laugh just fell flat because there's just so many moments in between where it does seem to be playing straight like a mystery. But let's hop into the show and like what they did well and what they didn't do so well. So Anna here, played by Kristen Bell, is literally Amy Adams' character from Woman in the Window. Her name was also Anna. No brain cells injured in this one. And much like her Woman in the Window counterpart, she is also perpetually in a bathrobe, lost her family, drinking crates of wine to the point of having a bowl full of corks, weird fast-moving flashbacks to tragedy, and some of it's actually like premonitions for what's coming in the show. Her house is always making weird noises, and she has issues with her perception of reality, making her an unreliable narrator. Lady thrillers love an unreliable narrator. And there's good ways to do that and bad ways to do that, and we're just gonna keep going. And you see this like right from the get-go, because you think she has a daughter that she took to school in her bathrobe, which was like bad enough and would have been enough of a commentary on the genre. But then
I can't.
Why not?
Because I'm dead.
How do I keep forgetting that?
a good bit, but again, probably would have hit harder in a more contained setting. Then it also has those like deep introspective monologues that are designed to sound super serious, but are really just memes.
My husband used to tell me that I drink too much. That sometimes I speak with a British accent, even though I'm not British.
And unlike Amy Adams' Anna, who became a total agoraphobic and passes out if she just goes outside, Kristen Bell's Anna is afraid of the rain and passes out if it touches her. You're gonna think that it's because her family died in a car accident in the rain or something, but oh no. Just wait. Oh, she also just drops casseroles like it's nobody's business, usually after grabbing them out of the oven with her bare hands.
How do I keep forgetting that?
Like, I feel like this would have been funnier if people just kept bringing her casseroles because of, like, the tragedies she suffered, and that's just what people do when you suffer a tragedy. But nah, she's just slinging these things out left and right. AliExpress these dishes in bulk. I still don't understand how that could be the opening scene to a show and people still thought it was trying to be serious. Like, she puts on a fake British accent. And just like Woman in the Window, our drama starts when a family moves in across the street. A motherless family. And she quickly finds out from the little girl that her mother is dead and immediately starts imagining this as her potential new family since her ex-husband seems to be moving on. Don't worry, unlike Woman in the Window, he is alive. He just left. And as expected, they are setting this guy up from across the street to us as a creep. She passes the fuck out in the rain. He saves her. They have a romantic dinner where she then goes to read the kid a bedtime story. like really just weaseling her way in here. But then the long stare. So she hits the ground running on her dreams of a replacement family and a hot new guy until it cuts to the next episode where it's revealed that he has a girlfriend. A flight attendant girlfriend. How do you compete with that? She can probably get him companion tickets. And Anna's not necessarily handling it the best, has to hit the wine restock and then fantasizes about murdering Lisa for throwing out the marker she gave to Neil's daughter Emma. And on top of that, the other neighborhood mommies don't really seem to like her. For one, she bailed on a date that her neighbor Carol had set up for her with one of her husband's clients, but also because they're a little weirded out that she keeps showing up to school to drop off her daughter. You know, the dead one. And after a healthy pour of wine,
2 shots of vodka,
we get what is essentially the same conversation that Amy Adams' Anna has in Woman in the Window about like not mixing medication with alcohol while she is just pounding back wine. And that is a consistent trend. Kristen Bell just pouring to the brim is the realest thing I've ever seen. Mommy thrillers love their red wine. This is now when we get the backstory of what happened with her daughter and why she can't go out in the rain. So apparently it was bring your daughter to work day. And I assume, okay, they get in a car accident on the way and that's why she's terrified of it. But no, it just happened to be raining the day that her husband took their daughter to his job as an FBI forensic psychiatrist for serial killers and left her alone with the cannibal killer, Massacre Mike.
Our 8-year-old daughter was left alone with Massacre Mike.
Yup, yes, the show goes there. This child was murdered and cannibalized in a prison. We obviously don't see any of that, but yeah, they went there. There's just so much going on in this scene alone. I mean, like fucking Massacre Mike.
The day he killed and ate your daughter.
But because it was Anna's idea to send her daughter to work with him, she blames herself. And I guess because it just happened to be raining that day, she has ombraphobia now. But in some good news, it's the sister from Happiest Season, Mary Holland. What a gem. Wait, please tell me she didn't write, she wrote Happiest Season. Did she write? Okay, no, she did not. Good. I should be watching Happiest Season. I keep meaning to do a big old Kristen Stewart video where like I talk about like her best movies and rank them, and like I asked you guys a bunch of questions about your favorite ones. We'll get there, maybe. I'm bad at my job. But Sloan here is rightfully calling Anna out on being insane about this new girl across the street because she sounds insane talking about how her and Neil are meant to be, even if Lisa does have a burner phone and something seems a little off there. And to be fair, she and Neil totally had multiple moments and he had a lot of chances to mention his hot little flight attendant gal pal.
Don't you think he would have said something?
Well, Anna, I mean,
I read her a bedtime story.
the girlfriend.
And this is one of those moments where it's so painfully obvious what type of show this is trying to be, but then it also kind of like pulls it back where I can understand why someone would start struggling with the tone of the show. Like, is it being ridiculous in those moments on purpose, or is it just so bad with tone that it comes off as ridiculous when it's trying to be serious? It is just that it is doing a bad job really selling it, because then it'll pump into serious moments. But that's because it just doesn't know how to do satire and it's not driving home the parody enough. So moments like this where a serious conversation pops through.
Elizabeth died that day, but you did not have to die with her.
If you're not aware of what's happening, that tone just shifted to being way too serious. But like, you've already established that this child was eaten by a cannibal in a prison. You can make the line something like, Elizabeth may have been murdered and consumed that day, but that doesn't mean you need to let it consume you. You know what I mean? Like, you went there already. You can have fun with it. Either way, she knows what everyone with a new crush does in these situations: social media stalking. And notices this random dude, Sexy Rexy, liking all of Lisa's pictures and decides she needs to make a dummy account with sexy pictures to get him to follow her back, where it becomes very obvious that Lisa and this dude are in a relationship. But before she can tell Neil and resume her fairy tale magic family replacement relationship, she sees Lisa with a stabbed neck bleeding out from the window. Just like Woman in the goddamn Window. So she calls the cops, runs to try and help, but obviously it's raining, so that's just a real issue, isn't it? Ombraphobia, man. It'll get ya. She could drown in those streets. We're not shown who picks her up and brings her back inside, but that's a mystery for another day. That's actually like a hint / maybe bad joke, but I didn't explain who it is yet, so I don't know why I mentioned we'll get there. Honestly, I thought the really fun twist here was going to be her ignoring the fact that Lisa was murdered because she did want to be with Neil so bad. Like, that would have been a really fun way to flip up the genre while keeping things light and ridiculous. Like her being like, hey, we're going to be together now because, like, I saw what you did. Or even just kind of being like, I'm just going to move my way in here, be mindful of the fact that I might get murdered, but we're gonna be perfect together and I'll help hide everything. But no, we went with Massacre Mike, which is actually really funny. But other than that, like just playing with the conflict of the plot, just super straight for most of the runtime. Like there was ways. Netflix, call me. I don't have great ideas, but I can fix bad ones sometimes, occasionally, maybe not really. I'm terrible at everything. Because this is literally just Woman in the Window with the intention of being funny. Even though other than passing out because of rain instead of just walking outside, which isn't necessarily any more funny than someone just passing out every time they walk outside, it's the same damn scene. And it's hilarious how similar these two end up being. Like, obviously it's intentional, but it's like sometimes the parody is so weak that it just feels like it's the same thing. But Netflix picked up Woman in the Window for distribution, probably assuming like they might have been an Oscar contender and then being like, oh shit, we thought we had an Oscar contender on our hands. Everyone hated it. Let's just produce an entire parody making fun of our own disaster. And the reviews are shit, but the views seem to be paying off for them in both situations. So like they really still are the winners here. And just like Woman in the Window, Anna is told that Lisa apparently isn't dead. She just went to work as a flight attendant. So the cops just think that Anna's, well, doing exactly what she's doing and mixing extremely strong medication with copious amounts of alcohol. I get why they didn't toss in a different Lisa here because that plot line was already so ridiculous in Women in the Window that like, what else can you do there? So obviously she won't let it go even when the cops tell her to back off, and she insists at looking at Neil's text because she thinks he did it, breaks into his house, and lands herself with a restraining order. So she thinks she's just gonna let things go and head on a grief retreat until she sees that, though Lisa herself said she was flying out to Seattle, her airline doesn't operate on the West Coast yet.
Olympia Airlines doesn't fly to the West Coast. You'll be flying to the West Coast next year. So currently you don't fly to Seattle.
Yeah, that never stops. But clearly someone is unhappy with her investigation and wrote "Stop" or "You're next" on her back window. But she was at the police station at the time, where I'm sure there are a ton of cameras, so why wouldn't you just go back in and ask them to check? Like they're not listening to you. They don't believe you. This is like one way to be like, look, something weird's going on or I just got punked. But that's not gonna make her stand down. She's a woman on a mission. This is a mommy thriller. In a total disregard of the restraining order, little Emma comes over to sell chocolate and mentions that Lisa and her dad had been arguing that night.
My dad gets mad a lot. He used to get mad at my mom, too.
So after some quick Google sleuthing, Anna sees that Neil was a person of interest in the death of Emma's mom, aka his wife. I just needed to match the energy of the series. Bear with me. Which brings us to an episode with a lot of flashbacks, or what you think are flashbacks at first, something the audience is being shown that our protagonist doesn't know, but is actually just Anna imagining what might have happened, literally putting the pieces together into a fake timeline, like a Reddit investigation. Like imagining that he pushed her into the lake after she accidentally cut him with a fish hook, and that's why he has the scar and she can't swim and he just watched her drown. Then Anna finds out that Emma's teacher died on a school field trip while he was chaperoning and assumes he did it too. This whole episode is just her trolling around trying to find evidence of Neil being places, like she visits the dead wife's sister, Emma's school, the field trip location, the photographer. Just so much to just drag out the plot because they didn't just, make it a movie like they should have. So by the end of the episode, Neil doesn't actually seem so guilty and has reasonable explanations for everything and all the weird behavior, obviously because we're only halfway through the show.
He's from when I donated my kidney to my brother, and it didn't take.
And then he died.
But as the episode is ending, she gets forced into her house by none other than Sexy Rexy, who was in fact Lisa's secret boyfriend. But not just that, they were running a very intense scam together, and her real name was Chastity.
Her name is Chastity. She is white trash.
He assumed that maybe she and Lisa had started working together to cut him out of the scam because he hasn't seen her in a little bit. But he'd apparently been in contact with Lisa through texting, even though she's just disappeared physically. So I guess their scam was tracking down like recent widows with cash to manipulate money out of them to help her sick friend, and then getting so damn annoying that they wanted to break up and move on to the next target. But there's something in the air between these two. Rampant sexual tension, which leads to a very graphic sex scene for a parody. I thought I was safe here. I thought I was gonna be avoiding the debauchery. This unholiness? Like seriously, I can't show any of it. They're Hulk smashing fully nude all over the house from the stairs to her court collection. But while they're smushing, a dog finds Lisa's dead body. Dun dun! But I guess at least things are going good for Anna. She's got a naked, muscly guy in an apron making her breakfast. My nightmare, but she seems happy. Neil, who potentially murdered his girlfriend, wife, and child's teacher, who? But then her bad boy in pink lace gets arrested for Chastity's murder.
And I'm telling you, I didn't do it!
And after the police explain all the evidence they have to pin it on him, Anna decides it might be time to get her life in order. She dumps all her wine and medication. That might have been questionable, and just tries to get back to her art and living. Neil even makes peace with her when they meet up at the cemetery.
Life is for the living, and so are casseroles.
The goddamn casserole. I would also just like to point out that every time she shows up to the gravestone, it says something new. Like, in heaven, you can dance like no one's watching, but my personal favorite is, there's no I in heaven. Like, a lot of the background stuff is way funnier than anything being said, like her damn art books. So everything seems to be coming together. Till she gets arrested. Apparently they found the murder weapon and it's one of her paint pusher thingies, and then she's suddenly having weird flashback memories to thinking she might have done it. She did not do it. We will later find out that that is her having a flashback to stabbing a painting that she did while really drunk. But Sloane manages to bail her out, even though I'm pretty sure it is like hard to get bailed out if you've been charged with murder that you have like lied and tried to conceal and interfere with. But maybe Sloane has cash like that. And after all of this, she decides she is sick of pretending that she is not hearing things from the attic, opens the door, out pops a splattering of blood. So she calls a therapist who we haven't heard from since learning about Massacre Mike.
Have you ever eaten anyone? No.
And it turns out that it's her ex-husband.
And I'm not just a psychiatrist. I was your husband.
Which is basically a combination of the therapist from Woman in the Window and the fact that she hallucinates phone conversations with her husband and daughter when they're both dead. Anna's husband isn't dead though. These are real conversations. Even brought her bread at one point when she was using him as a potential defense against Rexy. Before they fuck. But he convinces her to just go up to the attic and check it out, even though he had been the one being like, hey, old houses just make noises, it's totally fine. And turns out it was in fact just paint. But it then becomes obvious that someone's been living up there. The cause for all the noises, and it's Buell. Oh, I'm sorry. Have I not mentioned Buell?
Everybody makes mistakes, Miss Anna. I know I have, but that's a story for another day.
Buell, your hand.
Well, I'll be. There's a nail in my hand.
Well, you're nothing like my mother, Miss Anna. And I have some pretty hard stories about my father, too, but that's for another day.
Yeah, he's this super kind, lumbering handyman that's literally been fixing her mailbox every single day and occasionally says some weird things about his difficult past.
Back when you hired him to fix our mailbox, all those years ago.
Turns out he was actually a patient that her husband rehabilitated back into society after he had viciously murdered his entire family.
But we needed someone to fix the mailbox.
It's still not fixed!
So they're clearly setting it up that he's killed Lisa and is about to kill Neil for threatening Anna, I suppose? Man, Douglas here just doesn't miss with putting his family in potential harm's way. So she tries to stop him, and of course, it's raining, but she actually manages to fight through that ombrophobia, only to find Buell shot on the ground. Apparently, he's really just that kind who was bringing the mail over to Neil and had no malicious intentions for living in her attic and hadn't killed anyone. Still not okay that he was living in her attic, but not a murderer. And neither was Neil, because obviously, just like Woman in the Window, the killer is the kid.
People always underestimate children. I mean, I didn't know I was capable of murder.
Okay, so she killed Lisa because Lisa wouldn't buy her chocolate and said that sugar is the worst thing you can put in your body.
I don't think sugar is the worst thing you can put in your body. I think this is.
The kid had to act this shit out. And she killed her own mom because she was pregnant.
I think I prefer being an only child.
That's dark. Look, I also would have been very unhappy if my mom had gotten pregnant when I was a kid or ever again after me, but this is excessive, girl. And apparently the teacher had to go for just being a bitch, I guess.
You're fucking crazy.
That's what my teacher said before I pushed her off the lighthouse.
So Anna and Emma throw down hard, like to the point that I'm surprised they managed to pull off half of what they do film-wise. Like, kid's teeth get slammed out with a bloody mouth, she says.
Those are just baby teeth, you stupid asshole.
So she finally manages to stab the kid in the heart. Not something I ever thought I'd be saying on this channel, but all right. Who am I kidding? This completely tracks. And thankfully they believe Anna and don't think she murdered this kid who had just put up a super valiant fight against the lady across the street who killed her dad and potential future stepmom.
How you feeling?
Like I was hit by a Mack truck, driven by a 9-year-old.
She says that 3 times. I hate Spoof, I really do. But hey, Buell's still alive! Like, he's a creep who was secretly living in her attic, but he was so nice and polite and helpful and called her Miss Anna. I think he has a beautiful life ahead of him. I don't think he's gonna viciously murder any more families. And it seems like it's all gonna end happy and chill. She starts doing art again. Turns out her ex-husband hadn't started dating someone new. This was just his new work partner. And he wants to get back together. Even apologizes for having her on meds that were way too strong for the situation. So it jumps ahead to them back together. They have a new baby and she's off to visit Sloan in New York. Look, I get that he's probably very trustworthy, but I don't know how I'd feel about leaving a child alone with a man who didn't take his kid out of a room with a serial killer cannibal, but like maybe my standards are just too high. Either way, on her way to New York.
Oh, no thank you. I don't drink wine anymore. I'll have a vodka.
When none other than Glenn Close sits down next to her. Good Lord, girl, what are you doing here? It's fine. But when she wakes up, hours later, she finds that Glenn Close is dead in the bathroom. Except she's not there by the time the flight attendant, played by Jim Rash, because of course, goes to check. Not even a drop of blood, but not only that, he says that there wasn't ever anyone sitting in seat 2A. But then, Anna finds her cigarette case.
Bingo.
Holy fuck, did they just set up for a miniseries? This is titled as a miniseries. Are they gonna try and like make fun of The Flight Attendant? Which like was a good show that already had comedy featured in it? I don't know. I'm tired. This should have been a movie at most. Like, what are we doing here, guys? Did we lose the objective? Why do you think you're a satire? I'll be honest though, I'll watch the airplane parody. If they're gonna run the whole season in the air, I'm on board. Oh fuck, I'm part of the problem. So yeah, I think the biggest issue with this one is the one I had right out of the gate. There's just no reason to have something with a tone like this run for an entire season. It's completely unnecessary and pulls away from the comedy. Then it ruins a lot of the pacing that you're going for with this style and leaves a lot of people confused as to what you're actually trying to do and how you're even making a statement on the genre, or at least like a particular title in said genre. My mouth, it's just the words that are coming out of my mouth. It was like 3.4 hours of shitting on AJ Finn specifically while also being a shitty thriller. Like Woman in the Window. Like overall, I think the length of the show is why it suffered so much. Even if I probably would have been okay if they had done like a 3 to 5 episode series here. They could have tightened it up a lot more and it might have been a lot better. Because at most it's like, yeah, mommy thrillers do that. Woman in the Window, that's exactly what that did. At most, it's just like the sharp nose exhales, like the there's just too much filler bogging it down to stay fun, and it's not good enough at what it's trying to do to be consistent. Again, there are a lot of negative reviews for this show, some of them from people who thought it sucked as a parody, satire, whatever. A lot of people did like it for what it did there, and I do think it did a lot of things that were fun. I think it just kind of shot itself in the foot a bit. But then there's the people who, like, by the end still didn't realize what it was supposed to be, and obviously thought it just sucked with bad acting that wasn't intentional, which is kind of wild to be getting hit on both ends like that. Like, rip, guys, you did this part so badly, well, what you were trying to do, that it ricocheted, so now you've got two sides that are just kind of like, this is dumb. They either needed to completely descend into the disaster of the spoof and the parody, or be smarter if they wanted to steer into the satire and actually do something within the thriller area. But that is going to do it for the show. I know a lot of people had a bunch of fun with this. I think that, again, if this is something that if I had been watching with someone while drinking, it probably would have been a blast, because you could just really hone in on the ridiculous stuff for fun, and then like the stuff that's not as interesting, you at least have somebody to kind of bounce off with. As it stands, I'll stick with Scream. This wasn't terrible. I didn't hate watching it. It's really easy to bang out in an evening. This is another one of those, like, if you are into this genre of film, or have kind of noticed a lot of the things that these movies and books do, and you're like cooking or you're cleaning or just kind of like doing stuff around the house, this is the perfect kind of show to have on in the background. Yeah, there's some like visual stuff you'll miss out on because there's some good visual jokes, but it's the perfect kind of like, I'm doing other things and this is playing in the background show. But that is going to do it for today's video. Let me know what you guys are thinking down below. Thanks as always to my Patreon supporters, with a special thanks to my newest Jedi Knight level patrons, Jan K, Daryl B, and Oddpod. But thanks to anyone who is just watching in general. I appreciate the hell out of you. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Leave a like on the video if you're into that kind of thing. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. I'm mostly okay, and we'll catch you all later.